In late 2025, as we enter the sale month of November, it's time for an overview of the current model power meter pedals on the market. In the last few years, there's been a number of new releases that have made choosing a power meter pedal a little more challenging, although there might be a few options out there you can exclude based on price or performance, or both of those attributes. The pedals I'll be covering in the video are listed here. 4 of the 6 options offer both road and off-road versions using the same power meter technology, just different pedal bodies. I'll be covering off the details, specifications, and differences of each model, and also my own experience with each of these. Some of these I've done deep dive reviews on already, some are yet to be fully reviewed, and others only took me a few minutes of writing to conclude it wasn't worth continuing with. Now that might sound a little spicy, but that's the state of things with what some companies are putting on the market today. This video does have chapter markers below, so if you want to jump to any specific details as needed, that's how to do that. Okay, let's start with pedal body type or cleat type. If you're choosing a power meter pedal, this is the first decision you'll need to make. What type? On the list we have Shimano SPD-SL, road, Shimano SPD, typically off-road, Look Keo, road, and Speedplay, road. There's currently no Asioma Pro Look Keo pedal option at this point. That's likely to come sometime in the future, but Favero still offer the Asioma Duo, which has the Look Keo style cleats. Both the Asioma Pro and the Rally X10 pedals have easy swap pedal bodies, and you can convert those between road and off-road in just a few minutes. This may be possible with Look, but it's not something I can see that they offer, and they do use a proprietary end cap tool as well, which means it's not going to be easy. All companies offer both dual and single-sided power meters, except Magene, they do dual only. The next big consideration when choosing a power meter pedal is pricing, all listed here in US dollars. Your local pricing may differ, sometimes a lot due to taxes, tariffs, shipping, etc. Pricing I've got here is from powermetercity.com or direct from company websites. I'm listing dual-sided only here to keep things brief. Single-sided options offer no surprises. Top down, we have the Asioma Pros, both versions at $809 with replacement pedal bodies at $57 US. Garmin Rally step it up again with their latest versions, the RS and RK coming in at $1,200, pedal bodies being $200 each for those. Off-road with the XC $1,300, pedal bodies being $300. SRM X Power, let's go higher again, $1,349 for their off-road, $1,699 for their on-road versions with SPD-SL. Look have on-road and off-road, $1,100 and $1,200 respectively. Magene coming in with the P715, Keo and Shimano versions at $499, and then we have the Wahoo Speedplay Power at $850. The standouts there, definitely the Magene P715 at the low end and SRM at the high end, with Favero positioned very well for their buy price and replacement pedal bodies. A little more commentary on the P715, I think they're priced appropriately, maybe even a little high. That's because they're more comparable in features to the Asioma Duo or Wahoo Speedplays. They can't really be compared with the Asioma Pro or the Rallies on a number of fronts. They also don't ship with cleats, the only power meter pedals that I know that don't come with cleats. I think at $499, people will be weighing up buying the 715 and spending a little bit more on the Asioma Duos that have bearing service kits, replaceable pedal bodies, better availability of accessories at this point in time, and a few more features within the app. So there's a little more than just price to take into account, such as user servicing. That's a tick on the Asioma Pros, that's a tick on the Garmin Rallies. SRM X Power, it's a no on that one. You're not doing it yourself, you're returning those to SRM, to a service center to get that done. The Look power meter pedals, that's a yes, but they have their own little tool to get that job done. Magene P715 is a hard no, voids your warranty, and Wahoo Speedplay is also a no. Wahoo say it's not going to be required for the life of that product. However, with a lot of things, if you're willing to take the risk, I'm sure they're all user serviceable in some way. Onto the physical side of things, so pedal weight, stack height, and Q factor. I've split these out into pedal types. The weights, minimum in green, maximum in red. Stacks, low and high, green and red. And Q factors, there's no standouts with that. Takeouts from the road side of things, the road weights are hovering around 250 to 300 grams. Off-road, either side of around 400 grams. Those being dual-sided and metal pedal bodies, meaning more weight on those. For the road, the Asioma Pro RS comes out on top there. They're the lightest pedal, second equal lowest stack, and a standard Q factor. Off-road, the Rally XC210s are chunky monkeys. The SRM SPD do look good on paper, but that's not the whole picture. Which leads me to battery and claimed runtime. The top 4 listed here have internal rechargeable batteries, so it's all hidden and protected within the spindle. The bottom 2 have spindle or pod battery styles that you commonly see. Now the Asioma Duo proved that external pod style batteries aren't too susceptible to damage. I used to set on gravel for years with the Duo SPD hack. They survived. But with power meters now officially supporting SPD and off-road options, an external pod style really isn't going to be suitable for everyone. The move to internal battery was necessary. Takeouts on the runtimes there, the Garmin Rally X10 series currently leads on pure runtime, Favero and Look sitting around the 60-hour mark, with SRM trailing by a long shot and having a high idle draw of up to 5% per day when not in use. When it comes to the pod style battery, Magene's squeezing 120 hours out of the 715, but there's no free ride, so to speak. The 715 Shimano are around 70 grams heavier than the Assioma Pro RS and still slightly heavier than the older Assioma Duos. Related to the batteries are the charging cables, and they're all proprietary magnetic charge heads, all removable heads except the Magene P715. That charger head does not detach. Most have now made the switch to USB-C. If they haven't, it's a running change they should be doing. A consideration would be access to spare cables in the event you misplace the ones your pedal ships with. Now, if you have two options in mind, you're not sure how to split them, do a quick search and see which ones have spares in your country. Next up, the additional data reported, and here's where things start to separate a little more than they should. They all do power, cadence, and left-right balance on dual-sided meters, so let's call it done for the basic metrics. But cycling dynamics. Now, cycling dynamics can include seated or standing position reported in time, power phase and peak power phase, platform center offset, PCO, where you're pressing on the pedal. I think that's quite an interesting metric. And Garmin also lists left-right balance, torque effectiveness, and pedal smoothness as part of cycling dynamics. The Assioma Pro series do the full suite of cycling dynamics, as do the Rally X10s. They also report force over secure BLE. I've done a slight deep dive into what force is and some of the limitations of that on my review of those pedals. SRM X-Power, no cycling dynamics. They do have a high-speed mode via their app, which could be useful in some applications. The Look Power Meter pedal is interesting. They do not do cycling dynamics. Although the sensor says it has support, their website is also a little misleading on this. They do not have cycling dynamics as you'd expect. Power phase, peak power phase, seated standing does not show on this screen, and nor will PCO because they don't measure it. They may have torque effectiveness and pedal smoothness, not enabled by default, but yeah, just know that you're not going to get those extra metrics on those pedals. The Magene P715 has all cycling dynamics except PCO, so similar to the older Assioma Duos in that regard. And lastly, Wahoo Speedplay, it's a no on additional metrics such as cycling dynamics. Now, arguably the most important feature of a power meter is its accuracy. We have claimed accuracies listed here, all being plus or minus 1%, except SRM being plus or minus 2%. And to condense months, in some cases years of data collection, there's my summary of my own data, and it's a strong no on both the SRM and Look pedals. A quick focus on the SRM, and here's some data with their SPD-SL pedals that I was very surprised at being able to manipulate those numbers with pedal pressure placement, so different PCOs. Now that puts a hard stop on any further testing, as that issue will influence every other test that I could perform. Peak power, power balance, accuracy in different zones, all being influenced on where I press on the pedals, either intentionally or unintentionally. Now, an analogy would be having a set of bathroom scales that are only accurate if your feet are placed in the correct position. If your feet were further apart or one foot was outside the designated zone, the scales would report differently. And that's exactly what's happening with the SRM X-Power Road pedals. They also use the same spindle for their SPD version 2. And then there's the Look pedals. Well, nothing changes there since my deep dive on their SPD pedals last year. The Look Keo Blade Power have exactly the same issues. It took me exactly 5 minutes yesterday to confirm that, and that's including a 3-minute warm-up. I then did another 45 minutes to confirm what I was seeing, and yes, what I was seeing was confirmed again. I was able to influence the power numbers from those pedals by simply changing the pressure position of my foot. And doing so resulted in the right side reporting differently. Now, interestingly enough, here, the Keo Blade were reading a little high with a neutral PCO, but then lined up with the Core 2 with a positive PCO. But accuracy aside, given they were reporting differently based on the PCO, means they can't be used as a reference point. The Magene P715 has had a very long runway for their launch in the Western market. I've cycled through a number of firmware revisions this year with these pedals. It looks like they've launched with 106, which tests relatively well. The technical reviews I've seen online so far are all looking good, but as mentioned, these are more comparable to the Assioma Duos than the Assioma Pro. I'm hoping to get my full in-depth review of these pedals out very soon. And lastly on the list, Speedplay accuracy. Now these were tested over 4.5 years ago. Yeah, time flies. My testing protocol has evolved quite a lot since then, so I'll need to loop back and retest these. But testing back in early 2021 was looking pretty good. Now finally today, other miscellaneous notes, considerations and conclusions, starting off with the Assioma Pros. If you're across my other power meter videos and smart trainer reviews, these are my go-to. They've been on the bike with the Pro MX and RS for a while now. They've been great. The Garmin Rally X10 is the most recent power meter launch, the refresh that needed to happen. That was moving the battery from the pedal body to make it fully internal. The performance of those was great, however they are a little pricey and a little weighty compared to the Assioma Pros. Their 90 hours of runtime though is the longest of any internal battery power meter pedal. SRM X-Power notes, the install angle of those has to be set within the app each time they're installed, so it's not really a quick swap. Their app data analysis could be useful for some applications, but that data needs to be correct, and it was only correct when I had a neutral PCO. Unfortunately for SRM, the competition are cheaper, lighter, more accurate, and have cycling dynamics. But they're SRM. They've got to be working on a refresh of these soon. When it comes to the Look pedals, the Look Keo blade power tests were just simply a cut and paste of my results last year with their SPD power meter pedal. It uses the same spindle. And what I found is the right side has PCO issues. And that was the same over 12 months apart. So I guess that's just how their sensors are. The Magene P715, they definitely have our attention with that price tag. But there's a few other things that might balance out those savings. As I've mentioned, you've got to buy new cleats or already have compatible cleats, and you need to be prepared to forge your own path for after-sales servicing, bearings, and pedal bodies. However, that could change. I'm looking forward to deep diving those at a later date. And Wahoo Speedplay, always included last. Limited market as they are Speedplay, they're out of stock everywhere and have been for a while now. But what I'm interested to know is if Wahoo will release a next generation spindle like we've seen with both Favero and now Garmin. But given Speedplay are road only, there might not be any urgency for that. Okay, with that, that's a wrap on this one. Hopefully this video has been informative by cutting through the standard advertorial style coverage of these products and going straight to the user experience, where there were a few unexpected surprises. If you're looking at purchasing any of these, I don't have any discounts or affiliate links, so jump online, search, get the best price from a reputable retailer and go from there. Look, as always, do the YouTube things, the likes, the subscribe, that's what keeps things rolling here, and thanks for watching.